Dear colleagues, we are going to start. We are joined by a speaker, and we are now starting. Please join us. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, in UCMC Press Center, we start the press conference, and the topic is communication and crisis, and how to counteract challenges, and how to successfully act in the period of crisis, and why it is so important to have quality cooperation, and also how to bring the main communications at different levels. And we will speak about successful communication in the community in Ukraine and abroad. And I would like to present our speakers. Larissa Mudrak, author of the manual, president of Win-Win Communication Company, media expert, and consultant of USA Dobre program. Yulia Sluhanova, acting head of USA Dobre program. Decentralization brings better results and efficiency. Nicola Rubchak, he is the head of expert group of directorate of development of local self-governments, territorial organization of power, and administrative territorial division in the Ministry of Regions. Vladimir Kurpri, expert of USA Dobre program, candidate of sciences on its public administration, and the deputy head of National Agency on State Service till September 2020. Lyudmila Denisova, deputy head of the Association of Cities of Ukraine, and via Skype is Yanis Vernikis, Liepaja mayor from Latvia, and communicator of Dobre program, Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and I'm the moderator of today's event. And Alexander Koriny, head of Novoukrayinska Territorial Community and the head of the Association of Territorial Communities of Ukraine. We'll have 10 minutes each. And briefly about this manual. The idea belongs to UCMC, and Larissa Mudrak is the author. And the implementation of this program was supported by USA Dobre program. Within the framework of the program, decentralization brings better results and efficiency. And I would like to give the floor to Yulia Mukhanova, acting head of Dobre program, and she will outline specificity of crisis communication. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm really glad to be here and speak about this topic. Today, we present this book. Today, we're going to speak about crisis communication. 2020 is a crisis, and we have been in this crisis for a long time. Now people are speaking about new normal, and they got accustomed to this crisis. And maybe they do not see all the challenges and the stress as we felt in the beginning. But we remember how society responded to this crisis. Novi Sanjari people were in panic. They felt threat to their health and life, and they had a really disturbing response to the crisis. People respond in 3 different ways to stress and to unknown threats. First, this is attack and aggression. They display while they protecting their life from the threat. Then many people respond by fleeing the threat. So fight or flight response. And someone acts like there is no threat. They just keep on going, and they try not to see the situation. And if we look at the society on the whole, we will see that this year there were many protests, aggressive ones. People responded to the stress, to the situation. We see that many people also alienated from the crisis. They were trying to live their own lives. And the role of communication is to show that we should reduce panic and tension in society, and leaders of the community should show that they know how to respond and that they have a plan and they are able to decrease this tension, to decrease this stress of society that may evoke this aggression and attacks. I won't provide recommendations how to behave, how better communicate in those conditions. This book, I hope, will provide answers to all these questions. I would like once again to stress that despite the fact that maybe this stress is not so acute, we do not have such an acute response to statistics when we see it, information about pandemic, but now we face a moment when we may look at those responses of the society and how leaders communicated at the start of the crisis, and to see the results and to think and to plan for the future. Crisis became a part of modern life. Many leaders of the local government will face different crises in their work. They should have a clear plan. They should elaborate it now, because we saw what happened, and now we will be able to use this information in this manual, and there is a lot of practice and theory how to overcome all this. Thank you for this wonderful book. This is really valuable for the moment and for the local government. Thank you. Yulia, you've said that local government should have a communication plan or anti-crisis communication plan. We will ask this, and we would like to remind to you that you may join and ask your questions through social media on Facebook page of decentralization, Dobra program website, UCMC website. We have broadcasting in Ukrainian and English. I would like to say that the most active audience, we would like, as Dobra program, we would like to send a book, this manual, to you with the signature of the author. So we are waiting for your question. UCMC cooperated with Larissa throughout 2 years. We started to work with the leaders of the communities. You delivered trainings on efficient public communications. After this, we were working with press secretaries, those who are responsible for communication in the communities. From the start of the crisis and introduction of quarantine, you helped communities and provided communications and how to provide communication. And we provided these materials in the media at the local level. And this manual we are going to discuss this manual today. Please tell us about the content, the main ideas and conclusions you've made. I do not hear you properly. Please turn on the mic. No mic. Please turn on your microphone. I would like to thank you all very much. This is big aspiration and responsibility. Dobra program is one of my favorite projects. I provide consultations. I work with politicians and business. Why I like this communication with UCMC, I was inspired from the people in the communities, those people who are responsible for the communities. They really feel this responsibility. In one of the trainings, one of the head of the community said that people will come and strangle me if I do not do this. So I have great hopes that I will be able to provide my experience, and I would like to speak about one voice. We should provide proper communication from the central power, and we should build this communication strategy. We should have planning. We should work with teams, with communities. I hope that this is my chance, and my Polish colleagues. I spoke with them, and we worked with the cabinet of ministers. I was an advisor, and I asked why it is not possible for 20 years to use this methodology of one voice, why it doesn't work. And my Polish colleague from the press sector, she said, we had the same. You should take these grassroots level students, and in 15 years it will work. And we are doing this now. We thank the heads of the program, and we thank you and USAID, and to all the heads of the community, Irina Makagana, and girls. Without them, there won't be any book. And really, this is the experience of 2 years of work and the experience of all my life. And I deal with media communications for 30 years. And Irina Malek proposed to do this work. I was shocked. I never wrote a manual. And this was a huge challenge for me. I got real pleasure from this work. I traveled throughout Ukraine, and I wrote my manual while traveling, while having meetings, and the regions inspired me to create this manual, those people who work with communities. There are many citations from the heads of the communities and examples, really valuable for me. Strategies, communication strategies of the communities, and this is really great that we have it at the grassroots level. I provide consultations to politicians, and many of them do not want to have proper strategy, and without the strategy, you won't be able to move forward. And this is included in the book. I would like to speak first about mistakes, not in the book. Maybe there are some errors in the book. This is a live process when you have some mistakes. I would like to cite the interview, the article of extraordinary and plenipotentiary ambassador Roman Vashuk, and about mistakes that happened in the work during the last 5 years concerning communication of reform. What was wrong, what was right, and there is a special division about communication, and what really was good, that there is recognition and acceptance that errors in communication unfortunately lead to serious things when it is not clear what is going on. Small citation from Roman. People hear different things from different sources. They have confusion, and someone provides emotional response, and they start to vote for emotions. And we were not able to help the government of Ukraine to create such a narrative. When you take 148 reforms that are communicated, it is difficult to communicate anything. And you only can have 3 reforms that are big at one time, otherwise they won't be properly communicated. And at the high level, it is really important to clearly understand what you communicate, what are your priorities, to have one voice, how you create this communication strategy and how you plan your strategy. I believe that there is a lot about this in this book. Second, about the title of the book, Anti-Crisis Communication. Let's do something, they say, in April, and we understood the situation in the world at that time, and I thought that I have some opposition to crisis communication. I study in this is business school in France, and I study and I have a course of communication, and we are taught to be able to communicate 24 hours at full levels, starting from his team, from people with whom you work from the top, and also with the mentors, the teachers who may provide the knowledge, and also we communicate with robots. And I remember that during the training I heard the citation that crisis is a golden supply you get your future from. That's why anti-crisis, this is not crisis, and communications, if we are speaking about ancient Greece, these communications, they do not change. And I hear this from managers and those who implement things and practice. Communication is like rhetorics in Greece, in ancient Greece. You should know what you say and to whom you say this. And we were arguing and we had many discussions, and these are not anti-crisis communication. We called it communication and crisis. This is really important to understand the value, the essence of communication. And we should lead this communication through crisis time to preserve the valuable ideas and to go to the new period. And my second remark is why we have this title. This is about communication and crisis. As of today, I heard many things. I work as a head of press secretary in the administration of the president, and I hear a lot about the media, how they changed in 2012. I work in the information committee of the Council of Europe, and they said media changed. This is a business resource that works firstly for the owner, and journalism, fortunately or unfortunately, it returns to its roots. It works for the owner. And we have billions of media now, if we take into account the internet outlet and TikTok resources, and we should know how to use all these resources. And the third task, so one voice is important, and during the last 10 years we had the main skills: media literacy, media security, and media narrative, of media hygiene. There should be minimum that every person should know how to do it, to systematize this big flow information. While going to UCMC, and I thank them really a lot for their proper communication, I've read an interesting report in Huxley Journal, and this is about change in the media. And foreign experts say that as of today, TV, internet, they revived the business model of this is group of sponsors, and they promote ideas and they provide advertisement, and we should not we should have proper attitude towards all this. And I've said it about this in the beginning, and I hope that this manual will be really of value to the communities in order for them to better understand the situation. So now the floor is given to Mikola Rubchak about public criticism of the bodies of power, and in the Ministry of Regions you face such a situation when not only decisions are criticized that are wrong, but also unpopular decisions are criticized. For example, reforms of 2014, 2015, when communities started to get united, then new configurations of the regions were introduced, and now the budget is being formed, and the responsibilities are provided from the regions to the communities. Based on your experience of the Ministry of the Regions, how to communicate, how to make the strategic communications, and how to keep the situation in check. Why I ask this? Because despite all the problems connected with communication or reforms of decentralization in Ukraine, we have a big support of society. Recent survey, social indicator, shows that people know about reforms. This is 74%. 74% support reforms. And also awareness is high. 59% of support. They hope that this reform is needed. Going back to my question, how to be in this crisis, how to deliver communications at the strategic level. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your question. Good afternoon, all of the participants of this round table. This is the presentation and discussion. We have a dialogue here and presentation. Unfortunately, or fortunately, as you say, bodies of state power that I have honor to represent. Often it is believed that state bodies, they are apart from people, that they do not know what happens at grassroots level, that they just sit in their offices and do something that is not related to the grassroots problems. You've mentioned sociological research, and we believe that this support is 80%. And at the start, the support was about 20. No one understood anything. People didn't understand what it's all about. And the ministry and the associations, together with the expert community, those experts, and not all of them are experts, of course. And all these people were trying to communicate the reform, and this was done in the framework of work on the concept of reforming and the composition of the working group that prepared this concept. We had scientists, representatives of civil society, all Ukrainian associations, and the leaders of public opinion that got trust of people, and they still have reputation as unbiased, objective people with cold mind who work and develop proposals that are based on facts to achieve results, and not only just for PR. And involvement of these interested stakeholders have shown that if we have enough information that is spread, that the reform is moving forward better. There is less opposition, less fear, because ancient Greeks said that we are afraid of what we do not know. We do not know how to communicate to people. We are afraid to do so. Or, for example, there is there are no funds, and for example, there is a community, 300 people, and they lack money, and there is only money for communal services and for salaries, and someone believes that there should be Klondike there. And we should explain the importance of participation in different events. There should be people who take decisions and those who develop those solutions. And I believe I am also able to participate in these processes. For me, it was weird. I read about Sumic community and other communities. Uh, the number of communications increased dramatically. The number of points of connection increased, but people do not go to polling stations. Maybe this is laziness, mistrust, in the weight of their voice, and the heads of important points that a priori, in accordance with the methodology and concept, they are the locomotives, they are those who form the agenda, but people are not interested in them. When the government and the parliament are trying to provide these mechanisms, when they introduce some elements, how to spread this information, how to provide this information from those who take decisions, but there is no result, maybe something is wrong. Maybe this is not the audience. Maybe the points are not identified correctly. Maybe the language of communication is wrong. You should provide proper communication, proper message and language in order to be heard by some target audiences. And I believe that this manual is really needed for, it is needed to power in the community, and it is needed for the citizens. People, please pay attention to this. We have regular reports from local heads, and this is stated in legislation, but they just provide press releases or some information in the paper about liters of milk, about some tons of grains, and no one reads it. Let's speak about it openly. So we should provide proper information to people and to establish the groups of people to whom we should provide communication and to get proper feedback. And we should take this into account in our daily activity. That's why the communication is so important. And I believe, and I may also mention a good example, our prospective plan of the ministry for half a year, with involvement of the broadest circles. We discussed it in the ministry and in Ukraine Crisis Media Center in the framework of Dobre program, and in the regions. We traveled, and it was interesting. People said, even heads of regional administrations, they do not want to have meetings with us, and you from your top level came to us. So we show and others show, look at your neighbors, how they do this. This is reality. You should demand this, because you understand that we should take situation under control. We should understand what is being done, and it should be done based on sociological research and surveys. We should involve to the development of these decisions all those who say that they are not heard. At the same time, we should call on them to have, as we here they say about one voice. So all those thousands or millions of people, it is difficult to hear everyone. So this opinion should be presented as group opinions, because for example, some people may have a every person has his or her own opinion, and we should have the opinion of the majority because our system works like this. This is unit 8 of my manual. This is my favorite unit for me to some extent. This is the skill I learn today because there is a lot of information. We should understand that different people with different characters, with different knowledge, they hear differently. One voice is really important. It forces you to crystallize the message, to repeat it. There is a principle I really like. Message should be repeated 20 times a day, starting in your family, in your team, and you should communicate it to the janitor even. Otherwise, there won't be any support. And there is a unit in the book based on survey carried out by Harvard University. And as of today, information is really huge in the world, and different people, charismatic, skeptics, creators, they hear differently. They perceive information in a different way. And this was really revelation for me. And also, I would like to say something about the message of Mikola. Maybe we should not shout, we should have democracy, we should have accountability. You should speak about what you do 150 times, otherwise you won't get those votes. And this is the main obstacle throughout the years for us. Vladimir, please let's speak about why cooperation is so important in the communities. Thank you very much. We thank the author for this wonderful manual. For me, the most valuable is fourth unit. The skill of conviction is the main for the leader. And this report of the World Economic Forum, it says that the main skills that are needed in any sector, in any sphere, till 2025, there will be the main component, competence of communication. Efficient communication is very important. Organization of social and economic development concerning state public administration. Among top skills for those who want to work in public service, not only civil service, but also in local government, among 5 main. This is ethics, values, of course, but communication is one of the main priorities. And here I support Larissa completely. No matter what they do, from my experience, I see that there are many wonderful things. There are many things that are put on paper and in practice, but they do not work because there is no proper communication, because people do not understand, and they, for example, speak about reform of salaries, but people ask when they will be increased. But you should communicate properly all reforms, otherwise they won't be correctly understood. Also in the system of management and at the level of territorial communities, and maybe Alexander will support me, at the level of the highest bodies of power, media changes, it was said they go to their origin, to their primary state. But in management, there are some things that several years ago they looked rather weird. Before, we're trying to squeeze out communication from information. And in the course of transmission of information between different officials and the public, we should avoid communication that transforms and distorts, transforms and changes and adds something. That's why there should be less communication, more information. But now the situation is absolutely different. There is a lot of information and there should be proper communication. And if a person doesn't know what they do or people do not understand what you do, it is really difficult to be the leader, to convince, to reach the strategies, to reach the quality of life. And a small example from Dobre program activity. Everyone wants to understand where money goes. There are taxpayers' money only, and for the community, it is interesting where this money is spent for. And this year's, not this year's example, this was at during previous elections 5 years ago. In one village in Kiev Oblast, a person works in in local government and then became a head. And then it was said that this person is corrupt because this person bought a new bike. This was not about what this person did. This person tried to do everything correctly with the money and with the services, and about the budget for the citizens, not only about spending. And people want to know the source of the money and where this money goes. And there should be proper reporting about each budget program. Even those who understand these programs, not many people understand these programs. When I came to office, it was difficult for me to understand these documents because there are many peculiarities. And people who do not deal with budgets, they do not understand them. And there is information on the site, of course, but we should provide information about the budget to people in a proper way. We should understand that this is important, that this is not just an accessory. This is really a priority. People should be able to see how this budget is formed. If we take 1 hryvnia, for example, from healthcare to other areas, and money is lacking, and what is enough and what is not enough. And these are the categories that should be properly communicated to those who do not have specialized knowledge. We should create competent communication. And the world is built in such a way you cannot deal with everything at once. We should establish priorities. You should speak about the budget simply, otherwise people won't understand and they will say that you bought a bike for this money for yourself. Thank you very much. And now we have Mayor of Liepāja from Latvia, Jānis Vilniķis. Yanis, I do not know whether you had an opportunity to hear us. Good afternoon. Please, we've discussed communication and crisis and how to efficiently respond in this long crisis. Yanis, we remember your speech in March at the conference here in the studio. You've said that in Liepāja you used the time of the quarantine to teach your residents of Liepaja. Please tell us how it worked, whether it worked, and what is the situation, what is going on now in Liepaja. And going back to our main topic, how to communicate correctly during the long-term crisis. Good afternoon, dear participants of the discussion. Greetings from Liepaja. Thank you. Sorry, I cannot speak Ukrainian. I will speak Russian. First, I would like to say that Liepaja is the city that is the first largest city in Latvia. It is near the sea. We have maritime border and also the border with Lithuania. And we are close to the border with Lithuania. The city has good cultural sports traditions. We have very good infrastructure. A lot of money was invested in culture and in sports, logistics. We have a port, airport, and railway transportation. About the situation in Latvia, and you see the banner, how we provide information to our visitors, to tourists, that you should be cautious and we ask them all to stay home. If you compare spring and autumn, this is like day and night. It is really difficult to compare because the main difference is in spring, the borders were closed and we were really responsible in taking care of transport, and also we brought back our residents, and the situation in autumn is different. We act differently, and unfortunately, the state didn't close the border in autumn. And now the situation can be compared with a boat. It goes in the sea, and everyone is provided with a spoon to take the water out of the boat. The situation becomes worse and worse. Then we are provided with the cups, then with buckets. And everyone got tired. And the situation is worsening. The main reason is the hole in the boat. The situation becomes worse and worse. 900,000 cases. This is about 8% of the population. In spring, we had a situation, we had 0.1% from those who were tested. So we, as self-government, we have negative regard of the situation. In spring, we were heard as a self-government body, and all the laws were implemented and measures were implemented. In autumn, they do not hear us, and we see that we believe that economy should continue its development, but the situation is opposite. Culture, sports, spa centers, massage salons, manicures, pedicure salons, they got closed, small business closed. We see from the situation that we are doing everything in opposite way. In spring, we were example for everyone, and now we cannot be proud of our situation. We cannot be the example. What was done in the summer, we trained our people and school children and police officers. We cannot use it now because we are working in emergency. The virus is widely spread, and we are checking the shops, trading facilities, restaurants, cafes. Someone is trying to continue their work, but this is wrong because, as I've said, based on this example, there is a hole in the boat. It remains. We are working in the big cities through associations. We are working with the Prime Minister, with the Cabinet of Ministers, and we want to be heard. They should change these actions. But the situation is like this now. We do not see the benefit. Also about the changes in the autumn. In spring, not many people were wearing masks, only in public transport, in trams, in buses. Now the masks are used everywhere, in shops, in transport, in any place where people cannot observe the distance. There is no result from this. Why? Maybe the main is that people, they should believe that this mask provides effect, and also they should wear masks properly. You should change them 3 times a day at least. You should store this mask in a proper way. If it can be used many times, you should wash it and dry it. You should wear it in a bag. It should be sterile. But people use masks that they bought in supermarkets. It is enough to show to police officer, but it doesn't resolve problems. In spring, I was really glad with the situation in Liepa. Now the situation is not good. We are doing everything in the opposite way. In spring, I could boast about our situation. Today, we face such a situation about which we cannot boast. I would like to thank you. In spring, you provided really big optimism for us. You brought good example to us, and the information that you provided, we included it in our manual. This experience, it is a contribution for us. And about the experience of communication during COVID this year, what is this experience for you? What we do as a city, starting spring, all communication goes from one, I won't say a person, but from one entity. This is self-government body. This is one voice. And all information from police, state information, and self-government, medical professionals and hospitals, all the information comes to this city. We collect it, and then we communicate with the society in a correct way. We provide explanations, we create banners, infographics, in order not to have different things that are communicated. This is correct approach. So this is this one voice, who is the source, how to refer, and how these messages are communicated. Thank you very much. Please be with us, be with the whole world. So when pandemic ends, we hope you will be able to come to Kiev, and we will be able to come to us, and we will provide this book to you, and we will be able to share more experience. Thank you. We continue, and I ask to join us Alexander Korenoy, head of the Association of Territorial Communities. I greet you with re-election in Новоукраїнська territorial community, and your examples of your communication in your community, they are in this manual. In the places the young people attend the most, you draw graphs, stay home, keep safe, and this was at the beginning of the quarantine. Irina Mikhanova and Larissa Mudrak said that planning is needed in any crisis. Do you plan this anti-crisis action in your Novoukrayinska community? Also, we would like to hear interesting examples of efficient communication during this long crisis. And can we use these examples as a templates, or are they unique for your community? Thank you, Irina. And I greet the author with this book. So you really find these painful points and address them. I really recommend this manual to everyone. Often we come to power with our own convictions. If people voted, maybe I am a genius leader, and I recommend my colleagues to read this book. This is really important, and really hope that we will present the new book, Communication and Success, when our colleague Flem Lipaya comes here. And we want to speak about success, of course. And maybe this is not advice, but I would like just to present our experience, how we overcome the situation. When I plan my communication, for me, the main thing is a target audience, people I want to speak to. Sometimes I read on the site, everyone who gets benefits, please come to the center and you will be provided with 50 hryvnias, and people, they read it and they come. Or for example, festival for young people, and there are for example, there is a newspaper, and there are only 150 readers of this newspaper, so the information is not properly communicated in this way. And I know that you have a very good local paper in your region, and you publish there your messages, and we publish our messages in the newspaper, and also we provide this information electronically through the social media. And people should speak with you also directly. And about one voice, this shouldn't be your own one voice, your personal one voice. There was a commission, and they provide recommendations who should be on this commission, and we included everyone. When you get all the information, all the opinions, we will be able to hear all different advice, and you should hear all the opinions first before creating your message. I will open a small secret for you. And where are those people in special suits and these terrible sirens and these cars that come and terrify everyone? But I understood that we should establish lockdown. People should face those messages everywhere, in stations, near the markets, near the shops, on the trottoir. We draw in red, stay home. And there were sirens and there were cars. We disinfected the wells, bus stations, and we believed that we should provide understanding to people that they should stay at home because there is a crisis, and people didn't understand this goal first, but then we were the last one. Until summer, we didn't have coronavirus in our community. The end goal and the channels first should be established, and then there should be proper communication. You should choose proper style, and you should first establish goal, and then you should find the ways how to reach this goal and provide proper channels of communication. And also I thought through how I can oppose fakes. You should be able to respond to criticism, otherwise you will work against yourself. Before elections, many colleagues, they started to comment position of the president concerning Russian conflict, and then several questions they asked and they just disappeared as candidates. And it is seen that is not thought through and planned. You should think to whom you speak, what are the channels, what feedback is expected, and what means we use. First, what we did. Do not forget such example, peer-to-peer. I look at my colleagues, what my neighbor does, heads in the nearest communities. For example, if the government of Canada does something, it's not of interest for me. I look at what my neighbors do. We created a site. This was communities together against COVID. And a person who doesn't understand what should be done, they just look the information on the site, and the person starts to do something in the community. Then they get some feedback whether they do it correctly, and they start to correct their actions. But the main is that they start this action, because often people just hide their heads in sand, and the problem persists. And the mayor of Liepāja, he said that even bucket then is not enough to take out the water from the boat. So you should find information and act, and it should be done concerning the budget. First, you should look at how it is done, for example, concerning solid wastes. For example, there is an interesting project. You should go there and see how it was done. You should study successful cases. And I see that this book is a successful case how to communicate properly. So we created the anti-coronavirus fund, and everyone did it in the territory. Entrepreneurs, they helped us, and we asked for money for the ventilators. The information was not through internet or paper. I spoke personally with entrepreneurs and agrarians. I asked them for help, and I said that there will be a report about spendings. We cannot communicate through the paper in such a case. Only personal communication, only personal responsibility to create this coronavirus fund. We did it in our territory, and we helped our entrepreneurs to understand why it is needed and entrepreneurs helped us to buy special suits and pulsometers, and after this they started to buy this equipment directly. and the state coronavirus fund, they started to fight with the hot asphalt because asphalt high temperature, when they lay the asphalt, the temperature is really high and coronavirus is killed, so they did it in such a way. And they dig 30 billion hryvnias because of this. The top theme is coronavirus fund financing. So if you want to reach everyone, there should be boards and advertisement in all the places. For example, on the trottoir, there should be some messages because everyone goes there. People say there is no money for advertisement, but you may take a template and to create these messages on the trottoir. So not a lot of money is needed for this. Also, we have a peer-to-peer project. It is called Stream. And you may criticize, you may provide advice, and you may do something, you may help. There are 40 young people. They created a project. They communicate with the colleagues, including about actions of young people in crisis situations, about the situation of coronavirus, connected with coronavirus. So we communicated with them, and these people are really hurt because this is communication at the level of peer-to-peer communication. So we may provide our opinion to them. We may even argue with them concerning some issues, and then they communicate through mainstream, and we provide them with opportunity to speak with others. Also, one important thing, do not forget to analyze feedback. When we provide some information, I even provoke sometimes people to get more comments, because in those comments, maybe there may be some things for you. It is like updating of the software, and the updates comes and the program becomes better. So these comments provide us the opportunity to grow, to update. Also, the most vulnerable people, elderly people and disabled people, we created booklets, how to call a doctor, how to pay communal services, and they should not stay in queues, and our services, they brought these materials to people at home. At a problem situation, we are building a park because people complained there are no zones for rest, for relaxation. So there was lack of funding, and there should be a concept visualization. This is not only about banks in the park. And I asked people, and for 60,000, and we had 1 month, and in 10 days everything was done. People understood that this is needed, and I said, it's enough, we have enough money. And people provided even 10 or 20 hryvnias to create this park. we should understand with our colleagues that people come to power with their problems. And if a teacher or entrepreneur, if they do not have a problem, we are not needed. And if there are problems, we are needed at once and people address us. So we are 99% of time in crisis. And people should get hope as a minimum. And people should be able to participate in many projects, and we should involve them. The minimum is hope, and the maximum, the resolution of the program. And this is the main in communication. The leader cannot be a skeptic. He can not broadcast information about problems, because otherwise people will lose hope. Maybe others can say that everything was lost, but we as heads, we should provide hope for people. People should have trust in us. If, for example, something was done wrong, people come to us, and they should have hope that this problem will be resolved. Dear colleagues, we should provide people with hope. We should understand this. If you do not understand something, you may get advice from others, but please involve people to resolve the problems. From Marina Hevela, the question to Alexander Korenei about the internet connection in your community. Did the number of people increase? And the number of online addresses to you, did it increase? Four settlements joined, the number of people increased, the online connection increased, people communicate online now, and we work in a limited mode, and people only enter if the problem cannot be resolved electronically. But in the majority of cases, we have online communication. At that, it is important that the city head is able to provide proper answers. Sometimes personal page is managed by someone else, and this is a big mistake. I do it personally. Sometimes you even communicate at late hours, so you should do it yourself. Your assistant won't be able to do this because they do not feel this so acutely. And also, there are some technical problems with internet in the rural areas. And there should be national program, maybe supported by donors, because our people in rural areas are cut from internet. And the crisis helped us to understand this. We had remote lessons at schools, and during the second wave, all urban schools are working, and for example, they can have shifts online, offline, but the majority of children in villages, they do not have opportunity to study online. There is no proper internet connection. That's why we study offline. And this is a feedback from remote learning. And maybe in Kiev Oblast, development maybe is high, but in rural areas, in remote rural areas, the problem persists, and we should work with this issue. Also, doctors may have these appointments online, and technically it is not possible now in our territory. We are working, but we cannot do it for all the categories of people. if you are near a church, internet may be available, and if you are closer to the lake, for example, it is not possible to get good connection. The key idea, in order to resolve the problem, first you should start to speak about it. Ludmila, we are going to you now. The association you represent communicate with all the cities members of the association, and in March Alexander Slobozhan during the conference said that we communicate and we learn and we learn and we communicate, and this is one of the citations from our manual. This was in March. And what about teaching and learning from through Zoom, and you get feedback from the heads of the cities, and in this long crisis, everyone is really tired physically and emotionally. Your advice from the Association of Cities. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. First, thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss this quality product that will be of value for communities, associations, and also will be valuable for the bodies of executive power on how to properly communicate at all the levels. Really, it is difficult. Territorial communities, they usually communicate directly. Personally, the main issues are resolved, but we found our ways. We learned how to live in the situation. In May, we provided the manual how to work in these conditions for the bodies of local government, how to communicate in the local government body, how to communicate with population, and how local self-government bodies should communicate with business, because we understand if business is not heard, there won't be any taxes, and we won't be able to buy ventilators and PPE. Unfortunately, in spring, some unpopular decisions were taken, and proceeds to local budgets decreased because of this, and communities had to deal with it. And now, in local budgets from them, more than 40 billion were allocated to buy medical equipment and PPE. And this was done due to communication with business. They were limited in resources, they were limited in communication with the power, and they had to establish quality cooperation at the local level to take decisions, to take money from the budget to support the entrepreneurs, and they are allowed not to pay some taxes. This is about services that are provided locally. And this worked very well because, as they say, it is easier to do everything together. And as Mr. Mayor from Latvia mentioned, people, communities, they see local power, they do not see, maybe through lack of communication, this help from the central power. They see that local self-government provide help to them. And the side of association, there is a research, sociological research, that was carried out. It says that local government bodies, they directly work with the population. They are means of protection. They are addressed by population. We have also webinars for local government bodies in order not to have deficiency in communication, and we have a platform, and we invite central bodies officials. Last week this event was about health care. We spoke about medical help that should be provided in the newly created or enlarged communities and regions. And many questions were asked about the salaries, about how it all will work. And as National Healthcare Center officials, they work a lot, and we should help them with information how to do things correctly. And also there was event this week. There were representatives of the Ministry of Social Policy, and we have about 20,000 views of this webinar. We see that these problems really important for local self-government bodies, for central bodies of power, and for the residents. Everyone wants to know how it will work in practice. And on Friday last week, we presented the program how to establish proper work in local self-government bodies concerning communication. We have proper sites, and other organizations also provide information. You may read this information. You should repeat information 20 times a day and 200 a week in order to be heard. So these are real examples how to work with target audiences, how to plan the work, how to prioritize in communication different periods. I would like to say that our people in this crisis situation, and the situation is really difficult. It is not difficult only here, it is difficult in the world, and at all the levels we should be ready to communicate truth. When we have trainings for local self-government bodies, we say that after the first sessions, when you have the opportunity to start your work to cooperate with people online or offline, you should involve people on your side, speak the truth that we are elected, we are only starting our work, and we have such and such problems, and due to your support we will be able to resolve these problems. We won't catch stars from the sky for you now, but please join us. You cannot say, as Alexandra said, that I'm hero, I know everything, and everything will be provided for you tomorrow. This won't happen. And our local self-government bodies now, they will start their work, they will cooperate closely, and the central level should provide the truth. People should say that the situation is really difficult. We plan to do such and this actions. People should understand what they can expect. If, for example, weekend quarantine is introduced, business stops, but we didn't plan this. We should warn people. And due to our initiative, each Thursday there are meetings headed by the Prime Minister with participation of mayors, and there are many interesting ideas that they bring to the Prime Minister, and they advise what can be done in different situations, because they, representatives of communities, they understand what will work better in their territories. And this advice should be heard, and they should be introduced, and there should be comprehensive cooperation, because as you've said, this is needed for people. We should get united, we should do it together to provide quality, to overcome the crisis, and in order to provide quality services to our population. This is the main. Thank you, Mila. And during the short period of our discussion, we received a record number of questions. I would like to ask you, I would like to address this question to you. Oksana Pinnebersen, good afternoon. How to motivate the community leadership to communicate more efficiently? Some officials do not want to provide communication to people. I will be glad to hear your answers. So, what about your advice? What should be done? Maybe activity was not only low, not only because of mistrust, but people, they fear this virus, and maybe that is why they didn't come to elections. About how we should work. Now we face such a situation when for a long time officials were afraid of activists, that they will come and complain, but there may be constructive dialogue. We may address the council or executive committee, you may provide proposals or your comments about the activity. You may also provide some advice. For example, the snow comes off and you see that there is a lot of garbage, and people may work together. They may throw away this garbage and plant some trees, and there may be direct communication with the community, and in this way we will be able to resolve these issues together. Now we have Q&A session. We have a lot of questions. Natalia Shoturma, good afternoon. How to correctly communication during crisis, from informing to communication. With what should we start and what should be the main focus? Alexander Karinay. First, you should watch this program. I always ask to choose priorities. Just choose one priority. And then you will find a way. And channels of communication will be open. First, you should choose what you do first. What do you communicate? And what is your target audience? And what will be the timeline, and what will be the system? These are golden rules. And Apollonenko, I'm really glad to see you all today. The question, what are the means of communication that should be used in pandemic times, and how to establish this communication due to this means? Today's messages should be absolutely clear. People should understand why they should wear masks, and why you may there should be clear rules. Otherwise there will be strikes. There should be proper position that we do this because we should resolve this issue, and it will be easier to reach good results in such a way. Today we should speak with the target audience. Wearing of masks, this is for everyone, but for example, non-food shops, for small and medium-sized business, you should communicate with them separately, and we should exclude politics. Thank God there are no elections now, and we should exclude issues of politics, because this prevents good communication. So this coronavirus crisis 2020, this crisis really created a drive for digital services. And there is a QR code. You may find information there. And conclusions in our book stated that crisis has shown that everyone should know how to use Google, digital tables, and other electronic things, and this improves communication. The world changed. You may contact through Zoom. You should not travel somewhere. You may unite all the experts in the world. Virtual opportunities should be used to the maximum, and we should learn how to use all those electronic opportunities. I would like to say, for me, I feel pity to the heads of these cities and communities. City head personally is not capable of reading 3 or 5 thousand of comments per day. Everyone, local power, central power, national level of associations, they should find channels of communication with the territory, with the citizens. Please choose opinion leaders who are able to highlight these problems. In this context, I would like to thank Dobra Project and Despro and association and others, different projects that bring this opinion. I won't be original if I say that not everyone trusts power. Many people trust NGOs, activists, and when they confirm the information from the power, then there is a response and then things work. Jointly, through proper channels, we should bring information to people and we will be able to protect ourselves from crisis. But you know that even waking up on Monday morning is already a crisis. The audience got tired from COVID. How to turn the attention to this pandemic? Billboard city lights, should they be used during the crisis and in what cases? I will start from the last one. The efficiency is measured by research, by survey. We are speaking about communities. It is difficult to carry out those research and surveys, but it is needed. I traveled throughout Ukraine this summer, and there were some real shedevers on billboards concerning these stay-at-home messages. I will speak about it separately in some time. There is a principle. Ask an old woman in the market and ask a taxi driver, and they will tell you about the communication of the central government. And as of today, the quarantine, the COVID-19 and lockdown, these are the main topics. This is the main message. And also there is a nature of messages. It is difficult to bring people to the topic if they got tired, but you may speak about the consequences, about the plans for the future. This provides hope. Please search for this connection. Young people, old people at the level of the community, they will be able to say what will be the second and third topic. But first we should speak about this pandemic, this COVID and quarantine, and you should continue with this topic because this is the main topic in the world right now. I won't advise to change this topic. How to develop the strategy of development for the new community? I believe that this is a topic for a separate discussion, how to form it. Start with assessment of the resources in your community. Have communication with different groups in your community. Based on this assessment, you will be able to carry out SWOT analysis to study opportunities, threats, and you should not do this alone. You should involve more people, different groups to this discussion, and together make decisions and to establish priorities for the community. And two questions from Oksana Pitsik. Please tell us how to start develop the strategy of communication? What is the algorithm? Should we have different strategies for the apparatus of council concerning culture, healthcare, education? Do we select the strategy in sectors? Of course, the strategy is needed. First, you should establish priorities, your tasks. You should properly prioritize. You should create a plan, and only then you may speak about sectors. Otherwise, there will be chaos and no one will hear anything. No. This is like those 148 reforms I mentioned. People are not able to perceive all these communications. First, you should establish priorities. Take the most painful problem, and then you will be able to deal with this. And one message may be enough. Let's learn how to do it. When you get positive result, then you may deal with the sectoral issues. First, communicate your priority issue. Mykola Stadnik, the question about public councils, whether they are the efficient instrument of influence. Do I believe the hammer efficient means for handing the picture? In one situation, yes, this is the case. If the wall is wooden and if it is concrete, it is not efficient. Public councils at the executive bodies, this is the instrument we should learn how to work with and to have the aim why we do it, to legitimate the policy and decisions. Then this is one way to deal with them. If it is used as a platform to criticize, to shout, and to work, maybe this will be done. Whether they are efficient or not, it is difficult to say. We should see a concrete situation. Public council is one of the channels of communication. Whether you are able to use it, it depends. In one place it won't work, in another it will. You, for example, should see maybe they use hammer for glass, for example, then it will be inefficient. I worked with public councils. You should understand the essence of communication, otherwise it won't work in public councils and state bodies. How to understand that the crisis is on, because the first hours of the crisis is the main period, how not to lose this period. In the manual, we have examples. What should be done in the first hours? This is about actions of the leader, of the team, and actions concerning communications. You should do everything simultaneous. First, you should check information about the crisis from through the reliable sources, and then you should call a reliable person and get united with those who are close to you if you do not have proper resources yourself. And you should think about informing people. And this information should not be a cacophony, should not be crisis communication. Information should be provided to people in a proper way. To Alexandra Kirina, Elena Kirliuk, do you have such an instrument as hotline in your community? I do not remember, maybe in 2014 we got mobile communication. I have a phone number. This serves as a hotline. Any person may phone and say about their problems with the sewage system, with the roof, with any other problem. And there are other people who may take these phones. So my deputy, for example, and people phone directly to those who are responsible, and they may phone communal services. About public councils, it is important whether the head has the influence on the public council head, or public council head has the the influence on the head of the council. So then it is evident that uh, we do not influence elections in public council. And if I do these appointments, this is only loss of time. Людмила Pogrebna, the question how to divide this communication and the campaigning. From the start of announcement of results of the elections, the campaigning begins, and everyone who is elected, deputies, city heads, deputies, and the secretaries, they start working for their positive image. You should really deal with the problems. You should not politicize the issues. You should find a root of the problem, as I've said, to find those stakeholders who are interested and to resolve this problem together with them. You should not politicize the problem, especially when this is about the salary and some acute topics. If this is about communal services, this is another case. Whether we should provide some premiums, some salaries, we should deal with these issues properly. We should not politicize them. And sometimes NGOs are more important than the state, some state institutions. So we say that we do not like politics, but politics is a movement ahead and establishment of directions. And in communication, the most important is the cause. If you do not have the cause, neither positive image nor good communication, nothing helps. Unfortunately, populism of the last 10 years really killed it, but I believe this crisis, the time we have now, this helps us to return to real values. Causes and ideas are communicated, ideas that will be turned in real things. And the next question, methodological recommendations and trainings that are held by different programs provide concise information, and sometimes for people it is difficult to understand all this. And what literature would you advise? Mikhailo Chipura asks. I agree with him. When we started our courses, our trainings with Dobra program, for me it was a challenge how to provide this information in 2 days. A lot of knowledge that I was studying for tens of years, and also the media and communication, they change. Some professions just die out. There is no purist communication, and there are new media and internet that changed all the rules completely. And how to learn, how to teach all this. It cannot be done in several days or through one manual. You should be interested in all this, and the main skills are military literacy, security, and hygiene. So first deal with it, and then stage by stage you will be able to choose the area of your interest. Of course, you should get proper help from the specialist. If you do not have a deputy or an advisor, you may take a student or a journalist who would be able to help you. And Mikhailo Chipura, 2 questions from him. Isn't important to communicate through cultural product, or can we popularize community through criticism? Through criticism and discussion that bring the community to proper opinion or reflection. I believe that cultural layer is the basic one. We should start from it because culture is what will remain when we leave. And this cultural fund, it should be handed over to next generation. Many politics is communicated through this layer at different levels. I won't speak about criticism, but about the culture of dialogues. For us, it is really important to learn how to do it, to have this mutually respectful discussions, and through dialogue you may communicate everything you want. Question to Alexandra Korinei. Yuri Kozlovsky. How not to break the secrecy concerning healthcare data when you communicate information about COVID patients. There should be changes to legislation. Personal data concerning when we're speaking about diagnosis of people, the legislation forbids provision of such information. You cannot provide information on site that some person at some enterprise fell ill. You cannot state their names. You remember that in spring people fell ill and they were treated as outcast or those who are guilty of something. But now when a person falls ill, people started to get accustomed and they have people understand that these people are just like everyone else. And before there was a negative attitude towards these people. So there should be proper changes to legislation. I'm speaking about COVID and infections like this. We should make everyone safe, and we should protect people and their dignity, and that at the same time we should not allow the disease to spread. I survived this infection, and if test is needed, you go to the huge queue, and in Kirovograd, people are in queues, and you communicate, and you go to doctor, then they say that you have a pneumonia, you do not have a sick leave, you go to work, and then you are isolated in 5 days, and the person goes everywhere, and doctors fall ill because the test will come in 5 days, for example, and people are hospitalized and they infect doctors, and only after this they get those tests. This openness and transparency should be in everything, but it is important not to cross this fine line of openness and nakedness. This is the issue, as our participants say, that is about channels of communication. You, for example, should say that the head may speak with another head of organization in the framework of the service communication, and they may say that there is a situation. For example, someone fell ill and there are such opportunities. You should not bring everything to the public. Yes, there is a problem that emerged, and administration should deal with these issues properly. The question from Mr. Stadnik. Mykola Stadnik asks about the instruments of communication with the public to increase the efficiency. There is a list in the manual. These are announcement boards. You should understand where the where your community gets information from and what works better. Without it, it cannot be done. Announcement boards, they also work even people-to-people communication. It really works, and you should understand your goal, the goal of your communication. I would advise electronic communication, but there may be some technical problems. Not everything can be brought through social media. And now this communication is done more in a more proper way. We thank you all, and the electronic version of this manual you may find on the UCMC site, decentralization site, and also we have a link on Facebook page to Facebook page of Dobra program. What about plans, communication plans for the future? About communications. If you allow me, Irina, I would like to provide my emotions. And people ask me during this week where can they find this manual. Printed version is financed by USA Dobre. And this is for the communities, for our trainings that we hold. And we continue to hold them. These are small groups. It is important to work with them. Also, I hope that we will be able to provide some books for media school, for university, and also I'm really glad, and this is a special moment for me, when you may provide electronic version. I may provide it just now, and this version will be sent to everyone who wants. And I hope that this will be really useful. And the trainings that we continue, we will work with this manual and with the previous manuals. They are really great for communication. Once again, I would like to thank all those who are present here. And I always like to mention this idea of one voice. And Alexandra spoke about target audience. This is really important. It is important to work with business and to communicate properly with elderly people. It is important to choose priorities in communication, but the main is to create strategies of development of communities, and then to create communication strategy and proper planning. And I hope that due to USA Don Dobre program, we will be able to visit the regions, we will be able to provide trainings, and I believe that communication is my life, and I believe that this is really important for everyone. We thank all those who stayed with us for 2 hours. Please stay healthy and remember that communication helps us to overcome the crisis. Thank you all. Thank you, UCMC.